I do not find anything relevant today that the president has not been told. We've told him in this forum, we've told him in other fora, and he ought to take seriously the wishes of Kenyans. Kenyans are not telling him, when we say Ruto must go, it is just a conviction that next election we don't want him. But we are not saying he must go now. And therefore, whatever we've been telling him, if he was to implement, he may have a fighting chance. But if he doesn't implement what we've been telling him every day, he has no chance. He will be lucky even to get 30% of all votes cast. Well, the advantage with the next IBC is that the votes will be so many in favor of the alternative that the current regime will not have the capacity to steal. And because Kenyans want to get rid of them, it's likely to look the other way and allow the avalanche of votes in favor of whoever is the alternative to the current regime.
But what happens when the incumbent says he's not ready to hand over power to persons without a plan?
That is not, he does not need to know our manifesto. Because our manifesto, one, is to get rid of him. Then the rest, we can use even the manifesto of 1963. Cowards are dangerous. People of courage don't kill people, don't fight people. They wait for you before they react. But cowards, they will stone you and run through the fence.
Even cowards with a base?
Bass, whether it's a bass or a soprano.
They are still cowards.
They are still cowards. It makes no difference. Some of these issues, we just don't tell them what we are going to do. Let them try that. We'll also try the alternative. But the beauty is that the country is resonating with our message. Whether Ruto will stay with Raila to the end, whether Raila will pretend that he wants to join us, that is another game that we are going to counter when that moment comes. Yeah.
But chances are that you might welcome him.
Well, I will be hesitant at this particular time because you never know what he's coming to do. He may come and declare somebody else a tosha, somebody that is least a product of consensus among the leaders. Because we believe the leaders are a team, and any one of them picked is one among the best. And that is the way we want to approach it. And let it be a product of that consensus. Anybody picked among them, I'm confident is going to defeat the current regime.
Great to have you on Richard Mwenja exclusive. It is July. We continue unpacking conversations that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape. Every week I'm usually here with the phenomenal company of one leader who served this nation in many capacities. Prime of it as Agriculture Minister in Kibaki 1 government. He served this nation also as an MP for Cherangani for 20 years. Talking about Kipruto Arap Kirwa. Great to see you, sir.
It's my pleasure too.
You're doing well?
Very well, I thank God. Yes.
I think you should be a worried man, having served this country as an ambassador. Now we are looking at our outlook being dampened, all thanks, say, to the publication by The Economist last week saying Kenya is headed to a dangerous place. They have stated a number of issues, from our economy being under risk of some sort, our democratic space. But from a general assessment, what do you make of this increased negative profiling of Kenya?
Well, we can attribute to the leadership. You remember, I've always told you, in any nation, the people are not a problem. Because if you are to institute change in this country, the people will be the first to embrace. Without going too much into Kibaki 1 administration, when we took over in the year 2003, the dollar weakened because our shilling was getting stronger. And even the banks started looking for people to lend money because there was least borrowing. And even ordinary people arrested policemen for policemen asking for bribes. That was the spirit of that particular period because the leadership had come in under the banner of zero tolerance to corruption, notwithstanding the fact that some of the individuals who are in that particular team were found to have meddled in affairs of the public to the extent that they were sacked because of corruption. So when a leader of a country goes in the wrong direction, the country goes in the same direction as the leader has chosen. However temporary a leader may be, a leader has very huge influence on the economy of the country, the happiness levels of the country, the productivity of the country, and many other aspects of development, which can assist either to spur growth or to allow growth to decline. The main challenge that we've faced under the current regime, as you know, is restricted space in terms of political expression, management that is centralized on the leadership, more so on the hands of the president, in the hands of the president, decimation of institutions of democracy, including parliament, that parliament only responds to the whims of the president, issues of lack of confidence in the public service, because the public service seems to be running a show that is not informed by technical advice, experience, and policy, where policy seems to be wait and see until the president makes a pronouncement. A country where we run the risk of waking up in the morning and in the evening you have lost your child, not to disease, but to abduction or extrajudicial killing, the way it took place yesterday in a number of cases. These are some of the challenges that we are facing. We are facing an economy that, because of so many taxation measures, including the issues of housing levy, some companies are relocating from Kenya to neighboring countries so that Kenya becomes only the market, because they are avoiding the cost of production, either because of corruption or because of taxes that are so punitive. Some of the companies are closing down and moving away. Because of corruption, people cannot invest in this economy, even those who steal, because it will show. So they have to take that money away from Kenya. And therefore that means we are bleeding the country and depleting it of resources that could have been used to within the country. So those are some of the challenges that we are faced with. Yeah.
Last week, the country woke up to this news of 1.2 billion church under construction within the compounds of State House. And we want to understand something here, Waziri. We're talking about a leader can profile a country positively or negatively. When talking about President Ruto, oftentimes when there's anything to do with his engagement with public land, it has always been lined with opaqueness and some sort of malice therein. When it comes even to the State House church itself, do you think the president still is big on matters to do with sticky fingers for public resources and opaqueness when it comes to land transactions?
Yes, I'm very suspicious of the intention of the president in saying that he wants to build a church in State House or within the precincts of State House without public participation. You know, public participation is a constitutional matter. And on a matter such as that, it should have actually organized a proper referendum for Kenyans to say yes or to say no. So lack of that is an insult to collective wisdom of Kenyans, and it's an insult to the integrity of this country and the intelligence of the people of Kenya. Because what will Muslims say? What will non-Christians say, including those who are atheists? Why are you building a church in State House? Why don't you get alternative land through your large resources and build one that State House staff can be going to? There are many parcels of land around State House, and he can choose one of them, buy. Possibly it may cost him about $500 million, and use another $500 million to build the church. It doesn't have to be such a big church.
Majority leader in the Senate, Senator Aaron Cheriot, finds Archbishop Ole Sapit as a disappointment, saying he's turned out to be a disappointment in the sense that he too, as a bishop, is taking concern with the construction of a church within State House compound. What do you make of Cheriot's remarks about Ole Sapit, the bishop?
Well, he's just excited about being majority leader in the Senate. And I think that is too much for his capacity to carry. I have a feeling that Cheruyot could have actually been better off being the whip. And somebody like Boni Halwal would have made better majority leader in the Senate. But because of certain conveniences, he was given that particular position. Yeah, because he does not have the demeanor, the wisdom, nor the capacity to lead the senators that come from Kenya Kwanza.
Glad that you've roped in the conversation about the need for us even to have referendum when it comes to issues like now building a church in State House compound or environment. And Raila Odinga, while addressing the nation from Serena Hotel regarding what he termed as betrayal of the Sabasaba dream by the Gen Z, he said that after we've had this national intergenerational conclave, proceeds of it should be subjected to a referendum. Let's face the facts here, Waziri. We're talking about just 24 months to the next general election. We're talking about an IEBC which is not there. It's not, the commissioners have not even been sworn into office. Even when you're talking about referendum from Raila Odinga, is this just but hot air, more of pedestrian politics?
Well, I think it's politics of convenience. How come that it was Serena, not Hemingway's or any other place? Possibly he had been briefed in State House, then he came down the road on processional way that the same William Ruto had taken away in the past, only to return when we took over office, then get to Serena. Why really? Why Serena? Raila lives next to me in Karen. He would have done it even in his house.
Or from Kamkunji grounds, because it was expected to be done from there. Before change of events.
Oh, of course, even that Kamkunji thing could have actually been to hype the case so that he's invited to State House for some discussion. Which discussion, I do not know the details and the content. So I feel to talk about whatever he said is just a mere pretense.
Mere pretense?
Mere pretense in the sense that I do not find anything relevant today that the president has not been told. We've told him in this forum, we've told him in other fora, and he ought to take seriously the wishes of Kenyans. Kenyans are not telling him, when we say Ruto must go, it is just a conviction that next election we don't want him. But we are not saying he must go now. And therefore, whatever we've been telling him, if he was to implement, he may have a fighting chance. But if he doesn't implement what we've been telling him every day, he has no chance. He will be lucky even to get 30% of all votes cast. Yeah.
You're talking about us making this decision come the next election in 2027.
Yeah.
But looking at the realities of today,
Yeah.
no IBC in place, just 24 months to the election. Now Kenyans are grappling with the question, are we going to have elections in 2027 in the first place? Looking at what the Constitution talks about, the date of elections, the prerequisites that have to be met before that particular time, what is your position on the IBC issues and the questions about Kenyans? Will they vote in 2027 or thereafter?
Well, voting they must, because I feel it is an imperative that no president can change. It's a constitutional matter, although we are already inside the danger period, because we ought to have done review of boundaries of various constituencies and electoral wards throughout the country by April last year. But we are already inside the period. I do not know whether IBC will not be seen to have been an illegal institution that presided over the election and therefore annul even the next election ab initio. That's my worry. But those are details that they are best left to the court of law, so that perhaps we may get a leeway on how to get out of that mess. Otherwise, we are almost under unconstitutional period in terms of the processes for IBC. Even if the commissioners were sworn in today, the motions are almost being overtaken by the period between now and the next election. Remember, by August 9th this year, we'll just be left with exactly 24 months. And some of the things should be done before 24 months are approached. So that's my worry. Yeah.
If indeed what you've raised is not addressed as quick as we all expect, don't you think this is now going to build up the widening trust deficit when it comes to the electorate dealing with the IBC in the first place?
Well, the advantage with the next IBC is that the votes will be so many in favor of the alternative that the current regime will not have the capacity to steal. And because Kenyans want to get rid of them, it's likely to look the other way and allow the avalanche of votes in favor of whoever is the alternative to the current regime.
But what happens when the incumbent says he's not ready to hand over power to persons without a plan?
That is not, it does not need to know our manifesto. Because our manifesto, one, is to get rid of him. Then the rest, we can use even the manifesto of 1963, where we are fighting three things: ignorance, disease, and poverty. Nothing has changed. And even if you are to bring the best manifesto, those are the three main things that we are still dealing with. Diseases we have, poverty we are still poor in many cases, and ignorance, yes, we are enlightened in terms of education, but there is still a huge part of this country that children are learning under trees. We still need to improve that. Yeah.
So he will hand over the sword in the event he's taken out by the popular
He
vote.
may run out of State House even before the elections are called.
Could happen.
He could run out of
The spectacular, the failure could be spectacular.
Yes, because if you see the way they barricade around town, it's not about the town. It's about don't get 5 kilometers near State House. You saw it. At DCI, yesterday I was going to a studio on Kiambu Road. At DCI I was blocked, so I had to take a roundabout way, go through the UN, then Runda, then to the studio. Later on here at the junction, I was blocked from driving down in Gong Road. It was blocked. The other side, Kangemi, also on Mombasa Road. All that you thought it was about CBD. No, it was about State House. He feared that those people should not be 5 kilometers close to State House.
The same man who said, mimi si mtu wa kutishwa.
No.
Mimi nakaa wa kutishwa.
You know, William is different from what you people know.
You know,
whatever you see is the facade of William that I know. Whatever you see is a facade. I will not give you details. But whatever you see is a facade of William that I know.
He could be running scared already?
No, he does not have the courage that he portrays in public. And you know, cowards are dangerous. That's why they kill people, because they fear they might be killed.
Cowards.
Cowards are dangerous. People of courage don't kill people, don't fight people. They wait for you before they react. But cowards, they will stone you and run through the fence.
Even cowards with a base?
Bass, whether it's a bass or a soprano,
They are still cowards.
they are still cowards. It makes no difference.
It makes no difference.
Yeah.
Was it towards the close of last week, we saw the United Opposition, which you are part of, make Western tour, dubbed Uniting Mulembe Nation, the Mulembe Tour. And out of it, we've seen people have different reservations. Let me talk about the side of Kenya Kwanza government who say that was a non-issue. People like Natembeya, Cleophas Malala are not going to deliver anything for your outfit. If anything, we have Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula, who are the voices of reason in Mulembe Nation. Do you think there's an ounce of truth from their reservations?
Well, they had to talk differently. They would not have organized the goons in Kakamega and in Chwele. Because ordinarily, even when I was a sitting member of parliament, I never organized the goons against those who are opposed to me. But it doesn't mean that everybody liked me in the constituency. That's why I used to get 61%. So 39% never voted for me. At some stage, I got about 56%. At some stage, the highest I got was 65%, which means 35% did not like me. And then they were right to express that opinion. So the fact that they organized the goons on the way, but overall, the trip was a tremendous success. It came out better than I expected. Yeah.
And let's talk about even Gachagua's convoy being met with bullets. You saw the Prado car.
Yeah.
And it would probably speak to politics of violence and attempts to intimidate political opponents. Do you think this is something that's going to dampen the spirit of your coalition if you're going to have increased attacks whenever you go for rallies?
You know, for every strategy that somebody, your opponent mounts, you must have counter strategy. I remember when they stopped me from having public rallies in my own constituency and other parts of Uasin Gishu and Nandi, we went for night meetings. Night meetings where we would just have an impromptu meeting in somebody's house. You would talk in the morning, you move away. And it became a success in the run-up to 2002 general election, where in those three counties, my side of the equation got 64 MCS out of about 100 and something. So some of these issues, we just don't tell them what we are going to do. Let them try that. We'll also try the alternative. But the beauty is that the country is resonating with our message. Whether Ruto will stay with Raila to the end, whether Raila will pretend that he wants to join us, that is another game that we are going to counter when that moment comes. Yeah.
But chances are that you might welcome him.
Well, I will be hesitant at this particular time because you never know what he's coming to do. He may come and declare somebody else a tosher, somebody that is least a product of consensus among the leaders. Because we believe the leaders are a team, and any one of them picked is one among the best. And that is the way we want to approach it. And let it be a product of that consensus. Anybody picked among them, I'm confident is going to defeat the current regime.
If you're going to analyze the united opposition, which you are the center of it, among other principles, probably you can make a general conclusion that Gachagua seemingly is the only one conspicuous enough to really send that hard punch out here. Would you say there is need for us even to make a call to Kalonzo Musyoka and say Martha Karua to also build up that conspicuous element that they can be felt in every rally they're in? It doesn't have to be a Gachagua moment every other time.
You know, a team is as good as the composition and good as the coordination. Each of those principles has a role to play. Even those you don't see in the field, like ourselves, we have other roles to play because we believe at the end of the day, it is not one-man show. Gachagua happens to be exciting in the sense that he has the current information about the current regime. He has the latest about the regime. I left the regime before they won. He won as a deputy president. So he has the information that the public wants to know. And he has the delivery mode that the public is happy with. And we are happy he's playing that particular role. He has assisted to cement the People's Coalition or People's alternative voice. Yeah.
So note that that element is a bargaining chip for him to be the flag bearer.
No, I've told you it will be a product of consensus. If they pick on him, so be it. If they pick on somebody else, he will be supported. Because we feel our major duty is to give this country a team that can deliver. Yeah.
Very finally, Waziri, we've had discussions about public order bill being in the air. Of course, it was being sponsored by Esther Passaris, women rep for Nairobi. And Waziri, if you're now talking about us allowing there to be space, robust environment for dissenting voices to be heard, what do you make of that public order bill in the first place?
Well, you say it goes ultra vires the Constitution, and therefore it is null and void ab initio. So it does not have the feet to walk to Parliament or the legs to stand when it gets to Parliament. Yeah.
All right, there you have it. That has been our conversation discussing a raft of issues in the world of politics and governance. Time now for us to cross over to Heroes Corner with Waziri Kipruto Arab Kirwa. Waziri, leo hii shujaa yetu nani?
Well, there's no better person than those who demonstrated faith and believe in the leadership of William Ruto at the beginning of time. The Mama Mboga and the wheelbarrow pusher. those who have been disappointed by the fact that the deal was never a deal. It was actually a scam from the beginning. William Ruto never believed in what he was telling the public. That's why most of the issues that he was pronouncing himself on have turned out to be a scam in the sense that he's taking away money from Kenyans. It was bottom up, money in the pocket, but it has now become poverty at the bottom and money to the leaders. Because how would you explain a housing project that builds houses and they are selling more expensive than the ordinary people are selling as real estate developers? How would you explain the fact that the land is public land, the money is not from the taxpayer, it is money from the coffers having been taken away from ordinary Kenyans who do not have any connection with that? How do you explain the fact that he was telling Mama Mboga that you will have free telephone calls from every market, when now there's not a free telephone call? Because he was saying you go to the market, you'll be connected to a system that you'll make free calls all over the world. How do you explain to Mama Mboga, who are burdened now by Fulisa, Mshwari, and now Hustler Fund, Deni, that they are saying you cannot be treated in hospital unless you have already redeemed the Hustler Fund money?
Or subscribe to SHA.
Yeah, or subscribe to SHA. A SHA that belonged to Adani. A SHA that would have used 70 million to improve the system, and instead we have used 104 billion.
And Adani, which is said to have done miracles in Gujarat and Mumbai from the lenses of Raila Odinga.
But Gujarat and Mumbai, those are failed projects. Even in the where Hazina was taken away, is it Bangladesh? He did another project there, and the Prime Minister had to be airlifted from State House. And even in Australia, the same Adani, who later on was indicted in America. And that is when now they realized we cannot go this route because we have been exposed.
In every transaction from this government of Mama Mboga, you see an Adani behind the scene?
There are many Adanis. Even where the Adani does not come directly, there is some guy who stays in South Sea who has some connection with Adani when it comes to healthcare. So it's just Adani from the airport, but he's still in our system. And that's why Raila is still nostalgic of Adani.
And Murkomen is aware of these facts that you are raising?
Well, Murkomen does not have a good memory for good things. He has bad memory for good things and good memory for bad things.
But these Mama Mboga who are heroes today have discerned this deceit.
They have seen it. They have seen through their scheme. And in the next election, you will be shocked that we don't need to mobilize people. We don't need agents. We just need GNC to make sure that they don't tamper with the results as when they are airborne.
The Mama Mboga who said dynasty mbaya, hustler atawale, has made a Damascus moment?
He has realized that the hustler is a dynasty.
The hustler is now the dynasty?
It's a dynasty. Because when somebody wants to extend to spiritual realm, that's dangerous. Kenyatta lived in that state house. He never did a facelift. Moi, Kibaki, Uhuru. He gets in, and every year he's asking us for money. Even this year, I think he's asking us for
890 million.
890 million.
State House uplift, facelift.
Yeah, a facelift. And you know, the problem is he did not have a good architect. That kind of style is meant for places like a desert. That's why they do it that way. If you went to Morocco, you'll see that kind of style. This is a place where that style should not obtain. You could have actually done national competition for the best architectural design. And Kenyans would have said, okay, this is the one. And that architect would have been rewarded with credentials on Jamhuri Day or one of the days of decorations.
Are you happy that now this Mama Mboga you're talking about and Mzoa Wilbaro are now the ones pushing their children, go to the streets for this Gen Z Mandamano, go call for change? You have my blessings, I'm supporting you.
Yeah, I'm not only happy, but I do appreciate in totality that William Ruto's lies have mobilized the alternative thinking and have allowed Kenyans to think differently from the lies that he was feeding them on for many years. Because even as he was with Uhuru, he was undermining his own president. So for him to accuse even Rigathi Gachagua that he was undermining him is, to say the least, pretentious. Because where was he undermined? It is he who undermined his own regime by being a micromanager and a dictator.
A micromanager and a dictator. That point takes us to the wrap of this conversation today, touching on a plethora of issues in the world of politics and governance. We do this again with Waziri Kipchumba Arap Kiro next week, Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. and also on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m.